Take two. Good evening, everyone. Well, let's try that again, shall we? Take three. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Muse. I am your humble host or hostess, Sound Engraver. Hope all is well. I can hear myself, but of course, I'm going to, ask you if you can hear me, and I'm going to check the video on YouTube because I'm on StreamYard right now. All right. I can hear me. I sound good. Can you guys hear me? Do I sound good? So hopefully everyone is doing well. Now, I did see before we're going to get started and talk about messaging and art, I did want to say that I think Big Al was first with some wonderful alliteration, but I forgot to copy it or screenshot it. So Big Al, you're going to have to, thank you, Big Al, loud and clear, good. You're going to have to say that wonderful alliteration again because I know how you feel about alliterations. But let's go ahead and welcome the chat and greet Miss Netter's Network. Hi, sweetie. She is third probably post, right? And Melissa Harris and Sons. And also my prof, ready for some wisdom. Hopefully, this is going to be an impromptu, so hopefully I make sense. And Horizon Talker says, hello, the chat. No time to type today, but I am listening. I hope I said that right. I can't hear myself through the headphones, but I'm sure audio is fine. No time to type today, but I am listening. Hope you have a great stream, Sound Engraver. I hope so. I think it'll be fun. It will be more or less impromptu. I do have some bullet points here, but that's it. I lost a really nice pen. You know those big pens that have the real nice ink? I lost all three of those. They're probably in some studio. So I was really debating if I wanted to handwrite my notes because I don't have that wonderful pen that writes so well. Oh well. Pencil had to take its place. And Wolfton, hey there, Sound Engraver. Hey there, Wolfton. And of course, Prof, as always, always so kind. You look and you sound and look marvelous. I sound is more important than looks, as far as I'm concerned. But thank you. Yes, that's right. That's right. Big Al says Monday's muse on messages makes me merry. I remember those speech exercises. Those were pretty fun to do. And Daniel Heron, hello. Glad to see you. Glad to see you in the chat. Hopefully you can stick around. And actually, guys, the length of this stream is going to depend on you because as far as impromptu is concerned, usually I go for very long, or sometimes maybe times like tonight, I will probably go very short. So it depends on what you guys bring to the table as well. Melissa Harrison Son says, my son beat his first Castlevania game. That's cool. That's cool. I think I would like to try that game on the Props Retro Box. I'm not really into horror, even as the concept of horror. I know it doesn't look that scary. I mean, especially the Super Nintendo, but the idea of it. But I think that would be kind of fun on like a Halloween stint or season or something. But the soundtracks for Castlevania is they're very good. All right. So I think that's every. Oh, wait. Samuel Proctor, I see you. Hello there. Hello there. Nice to see you. Alrighty. So before we get started with talking about political messaging or any messaging for that matter in art and how you can use it in an effective way, how you can use messaging well or how messaging in art works well. So we'll get to that again. Impromptu. We'll see what happens. I wanted to throw out there that this Saturday marks the first year anniversary of the release of The Siege of Mandalore, which of course is the last arc of Clone Wars Season 7. And as I had said on my social media, I feel like I can write a dissertation on the problems of The Siege of Mandalore. And I would have to say a video will have to suffice because I'm not a doctorate student. But this will be fun. It's going to be a fairly lengthy video on notes and ideas. It's going to be audio with pictures. I was wanting to do kind of a camera format, but I had so many notes and I was really, really distracted. So I switched to audio, and I'm just going to have a video of, pictures with my commentary. And so that's Saturday. Saturday, April 17th is the year anniversary of the release of the first episode of The Siege of Mandalore. I'm going to cover all the problems, all the major problems of all the episodes, all 4 parts. And I might even do a supplemental video down the road, maybe a week down the road, on some nitpicking things, because there are some things in the film itself of that arc that is very, hey, this wouldn't happen in real life, or this character couldn't get away with doing this in real life if the setting were the same. So little nitpicks and all that fun stuff. So look out for a commentary video on the terribly flawed writing of The Siege of Mandalore, probably this Saturday. I hope so. I recorded about 60% of it yesterday, and hopefully I can get some of that done tonight as well. All right, and we've got Zetopia, who loved playing Castlevania as a kid. I mean, I'll probably do some cover violin on some of those soundtracks. All right. So let's talk about messaging in art, or messages in art, and how it can work. Total impromptu. We'll just go ahead and get started. I keep saying impromptu, like I'm not sure of myself. All right. So that's right, Wolf 10. Oh, Owen, I'm sorry. Where did you come in? Oh, sorry, man. You sound great on my Bluetooth speaker, by the way. That's awesome. Good. Well, I'm glad I have good quality audio for your Bluetooth speaker. That's great. And happy birthday. I know you had your birthday last Tuesday, so happy belated birthday. I hope you enjoy turning a quarter of a century as I have it. I think that was right. All right. So enough of the shenanigans and chat. Let's get started on messaging in art. So, in this community, we may have said, we may have complained this idea of, oh, I am so tired of messaging in our stories, messaging in our favorite franchises, messaging with all these beloved things, the beloved things of popular art. And I got to thinking that, yes, on the one hand, yeah, I think the messaging, especially the political / ideological messaging in our popular art, is ham-fisted, I would say, at the very least. And also, it's quite tiring. It is quite tiring to see this again and again with things, of course, like Star Wars. You guys who love Star Trek, I know this is going to happen with Amazon's Middle Earth series, whatever that may be. Whatever story they tell. And so, yes, I can understand the general complaint of not wanting messaging. We call it as an active verb, messaging, or having a certain message, a political message or social message in our art. But the more I was thinking about it, and especially the more I do music and the more I compose, the more I have these goals in mind for my musical compositions, the more I write, writing my space opera, my science fiction, the more I understand that, well, actually messages in art is vital. It is very important. It can be the thing that ties I would say it ties a musical narrative together that holds, I would say, continual. What am I trying to say? It holds it together. It holds a piece of art together. I had an idea in my head and it just kind of flew out the window. So messages are important, but we have to draw that line. We have to make a line, kind of draw a fine line to distinguish, to make it distinct. of propaganda messaging, or the tired old messaging that we are seeing in current popular art, and good messaging. Now, I'm not even saying distinguishing between two different topics. You can have very good art that has very provocative political social messages. Some classic examples are, Brave New World, 1984, Animal Farm. In terms of cinema, Schindler's List. I mean, okay, so those are very provocative ideas of, socio-political dynamics, but those are also classic pieces of literature and, of course, film. So, there is that. But then it could also be messaging that you have, something that you have value. So maybe you honor the sanctity of life. Well, in the form of entertainment, He-Man is a great example. Masters of the Universe is a great example for maintaining that value. I believe everyone has a second chance, or should have a second chance. I believe in the sanctity of life, even if that life is used for evil. He-Man has that value. He's holding that value. No matter what, it is consistent. It's a consistent theme. And that is fairly argued as a kind of message in popular art. So whatever the message, and I do mean that, whatever the message, social, political, religious, it can be done well. And in fact, I think it can better the artistic experience. So how does it work? What can you do in your art to make this work to where you're not just beating your audience, with a sledgehammer, with this kind of preaching and teaching, if you will? Well, first of all, as I've said time and time again on my streams, this is a theme. This is a running theme in my streams. The art, of course, has to be objectively good. The art comes first. The messaging is second. Messages are secondary. The art must be preserved to be put first. Do art for art's sake, and then the values and the messages will follow. So one way to make a message good, any message, I'm talking about any kind of message, you have to have a theme. You have to have a theme as a basis. The theme of anything, music, stories, whatever the case may be, it must be the basis. It must act as the core and the impetus to draw from. So, for instance, something as literal as a music theme to really flesh out the structure of a musical composition, like a symphony. The Romantic composers, Brahms, Schumann, Beethoven. Beethoven was, middle Romantic, but he was getting to the Romantic times. In fact, I think he was Romantic. But anyway, the point is, those major players in the Romantic Western classical music, they worked on themes, an actual literal music theme, which of course I've talked about on my channel, or musical idea, music motif or motive. And they use that as the core, as the bare bones to kind of add the sinews and the muscles and the meat to create that beautiful work of symphonic music, or like a piano sonata, or whatever the case may be. The theme is how you create three-dimensional characters with believable actions and motives. So if you have a theme, if you have a certain value and you use that value as a theme for your story, that's really going to direct the course of events. It's going to direct the plot. It's going to direct the decision-making of your characters. It's going to direct the motives of your characters and the actions and what they say and how they do things, and maybe even their mannerisms. But it starts with the theme. And then with that theme, the story follows. Now, it's not to say you have to have a theme before you write your story. In fact, there have been cases where the theme has come from the story. It naturally surfaces after being in your story and ruminating, over certain things in your story. So I do think good writing, good story making, good storytelling will have a theme either preceding it or surfacing as it's developing naturally. I just think that's the natural order of things. So let me go ahead and grab a swig of water because it's really warm today. So I hope that makes sense. You know, you want something as your core, as your impetus for the theme, and the theme it could be a political theme like we see in 1984. It can make a good piece of art, but again, the art has to come first. 1984 is a very well written story, for instance. So what puts people off about messaging in particular? You know, I've experienced it, you know, especially as a Star Wars fan. You've experienced it in the community and with all your favorite pieces of art. Maybe you have a favorite music style or genre, and there's this kind of running idea, oh, we have to be political in our music. I mean, even instrumental music, it can be very political. I remember at the start of the pandemic, there was an artist I guess I was following on Twitter. I don't know who it is, but his album was, you know, blueprints of a pandemic. You know, he decided to compose an instrumental, I think it was like a lo-fi electronic album based on the pandemic. So I mean, this kind of thing can be done in instrumental music without words. So we tend to be inundated with a kind of messaging, and of course, by and large, it has been ideological messaging and you know, taking the form of propaganda, for instance. And so, of course, we're naturally put off by that, but that doesn't mean we should be put off by messaging in general. So what's the reason for that? And I think it really trickles down to one thing, and I think that has to do with expectations. I think expectations are everything when it comes to your art, when it comes to your audience. I think the reason why people have been put off by social political messaging, for instance, especially in beloved franchises, is that you go to a story or you go to a movie, maybe a film among many in a very specific franchise, having a certain set of expectations. If you're going to a Marvel film, you're going to expect what you had expected or what you had experienced in previous Marvel films. Could be a completely different character, could be a completely different story, but it should more or less be the same experience unless the marketing says, hey, we're going to do a Marvel film, but we're actually going to really go, you know, we're going to drive home that it's going to be a horror thriller or a horror speculative. But if you go into a Marvel film, having seen things like Captain America, for instance, and you're not told it's speculative horror, and let's say you don't know anything about the comics, like me, you know, and you don't know these characters have that. Well, let's say actually, no, I have a better way of putting it. Maybe it's a character you do know that is not involved with speculative horror. And then you go in to see that character or story and it's speculative horror. Well, you're going to be turned off by that. You're going to be kind of put off by that. You're going to feel almost maybe insulted, or you're going to have some indignation saying, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting this kind of tone. I was expecting this kind of flavor as I had seen with the previous two movies of this character. It's kind of like that. People have expectations, and they do expect their expectations to be met. Unless, of course, it's preceded with some sort of marketing. Hey, we're going to use this character, but we are going this direction with this character. And I think if people understood and they had warning, you know, they had some sort of message in advance saying, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to need to expect before going to this film, then I think there's reason to be adaptable. You know, I think people would have that adaptability to say, okay, I'm fine with that. It's kind of like going to a symphony orchestra. If you pay, if you pay to see a Philharmonic, first of all, you have the expectations that the Philharmonic is going to play superbly because it's a Philharmonic. Second is not only that, you go to a symphony with a program in mind. If you are seeing, a Mozart piece, and then maybe a small Brahms piece or standalone piece by Brahms, and then something like the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto, if you don't get that Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto, you will be mad and you will want your money back. So you're going to the symphony not only expecting superbly done performing, superbly done playing, you're also going to expect a certain kind of program. If you don't get Tchaikovsky and instead you get the, Alban Berg Violin Concerto, which is a nice concerto, but it's a very different flavor, people are going to say, I didn't pay money for this. I wanted to see the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto, So it's kind of that. It's where I think most people, I would say most sensible people by and large, have the sensibility and the adaptability to say, oh, okay, I am seeing that there's going to be a difference, but I'm willing to adapt. But then if they pay money and they instead of seeing a symphony, they see three minimalist music players, musicians, there's gonna be a backlash, and it would be understandable as well. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully these examples do make sense. So expectations, I think, are the most important to work with when it comes to messaging in your art. The idea of subverting expectations, I would ask the question, and I would love you guys to see what you think on this, and of course I'll give you my input. But the question is, should the artist, since expectations are so important, especially in the context of messaging in your art, if the expectations are so important, should the artist withhold from subverting expectations? And I would say not necessarily, but there's a way to do it right and there's a way to do it wrong. And I've dreamt up this little scenario that will help with what I'm trying to convey. And then after this scenario, I think we'll go into the chat and then we'll have some nice discussion there. So, subverting expectations. Should artists withhold from subverting expectations? I don't think so, but there's a way to go about it. And this is my scenario. I'm kind of nervous. Okay, so let's say you have a great ice cream shop in your town. It is the talk of the town. It's the city's favorite. The locals go to this ice cream shop all the time. And if you're a tourist checking the city out, people recommend, hey, this ice cream shop here makes the best homemade ice cream ever. So you think it's a good idea to check this place out, especially let's make it even better. It's a hot, sticky summer day, and nothing would be so refreshing as a cold, sweet treat, especially homemade ice cream. So you check out this shop, and even better, this is a nice. It's like a day of the week where you get your favorite flavor for half off. And so you're excited. It's just, you're sweltering outside. You're going to go into this wonderful ice cream shop with AC and all of that. And everything looks great. Everything is presentable. And you take a look at the selection of ice cream. And you're even more excited because actually this is the very reason you come here in the first place. It's a special day. You get half off some really good gourmet handcrafted homemade ice cream. And so you pick your flavor, and then the cashier says, oh, you know what? For some reason, the ice cream and the half off and the amount intended button aren't working. There's a computational problem where I cannot charge you only half off of this, ice cream. But I would recommend, I think we can do this with the milkshake button. Now, you wanted ice cream, but they're also known for their milkshakes. Not as good as their homemade ice cream, but they've got a milkshake machine. It's still a hot, sticky summer day. If you can get half off of this milkshake, maybe 2 flavors, maybe not like the 30 or 40 flavors you can choose from, but it's still good milkshake, especially the vanilla malt milkshake. It's really good, and you get half off. It's great. Well, as the situation is moving along, something happens where the milkshake machine just breaks down. It's not working. Neither of the flavors, the vanilla malt, the chocolate, it's not working. So you're kind of bummed. You're kind of considering going back to the ice cream, but it's like, well, actually, I was expecting to pay X amount, and I really can't give you the store-bought price right now, if that makes sense. So they're like, oh, no worries. We feel really bad about this. Well, let's see if we can do the half off for the lemon meringue pie. Okay. And so you see this kind of display of this cold, cool, refrigerated lemon meringue. And it's like, oh, that's the price of the ice cream. I think I'll have a slice, and that's really, refreshing. Yeah, I'll take a slice of the lemon meringue. And they're like, oh, okay, but wait a sec. This lemon meringue is the display. Let me get some of the fresh lemon meringue in the back. And then the cashier comes out just a minute later. You're kind of having that craving for some cool lemon meringue as a substitute for the ice cream. And then the cashier comes back saying, you know what? Our baker is out to lunch, and they usually mind the baking of the pies, and we don't have a fresh pie as a backup. But what about our fudge? What about, it's cool, it's refrigerated. Would you like some of our fudge? We will still provide you half off. And you're thinking, well, it's sweet, and I came here for something sweet. It's cold, it's cool, it's refrigerated, but fudge on a summer day, I don't think my stomach can take it. It's kind of dense. It's not like lemon meringue. It's certainly not like that wonderful, handcrafted ice cream that I can only pay X amount of dollars for. I think I'll skip the fudge. And the cashier feels bad. It's like, well, I want to give you something for half off, or for what money you have. Well, what about our apple fritters? And now our apple fritters, we're really known for our apple fritters too. And you're thinking, oh yeah, I do like apple fritters, but really on a cold day with a cup of black coffee, like a cold morning, it's kind of a hot summer. It's like, oh, well, I mean, but just try it. It's like a piping hot apple fritter right out of the oven. I'm sure you will like it just fine. Still AC. This shop still has the AC. It's what do you say? And you're thinking, nah, I don't really feel like an apple fritter. I was really feeling like ice cream. And then they're feeling bad, and then they're thinking of, they've run out of options except one last option. It's like, okay, well, we really feel bad for, saying this deal and things are not working right. How about this? How about we offer you for free a complimentary gourmet pizza, a small complimentary gourmet pizza. And then you're thinking, well, I mean, it's kind of a hot day, and I actually just came from having lunch. I just had lunch. I don't feel like having pizza because I just had lunch. I felt like something cool and refreshing and cold, like ice cream. But even complimentary, even free, it's really good pizza. And then you kind of say to the cashier politely, saying, well, but you're not really known for your pizza. Maybe that's like a kind of off thing you offer, but you're really known for your handcrafted ice cream. And then you get the point. They try to offer you like another hot baked good, kind of like donuts or something. It's like, well, you can have iced coffee with it. You can have ice water with it. It's still AC. You'll still be cool. But the whole point is you came for handcrafted ice cream, homemade handcrafted ice cream. So well, and you can imagine maybe it's not just you who came to the ice cream shop. Maybe it's your whole family. Maybe it's your whole group of friends, wanting to hang out. And they're like, oh, we were planning on just having some ice cream, not pizza. We just came from pizza. We just came from the pizzeria. So that's my whole scenario, where you have this idea, like where it's ice cream. We have this kind of trajectory. And notice the variables that I'm placing in front of the ice cream. So when ice cream wasn't going to work, the milkshake was the option. Now, milkshake is not ice cream in its form, and it's not like a beautiful bowl of ice cream, but it still has that cold ice cream. Is made of course, the dairy and the milk and all that good stuff. So yeah, I would say safely, yes, the person can adapt to choosing milkshake if choosing a container of a milkshake to ice cream. I think they're fine to adapt to it because they're very, very similar. You might not eat it the same way as you eat ice cream, but you might not have the same flavors or the same flavor as you would have chosen with the ice cream, but it's still nice and cold and refreshing on a hot, sticky summer day. But then when that didn't work, then they referred you to the lemon meringue pie. Now, pie is sweet and it's and refrigerated. It's nice and cool. Lemon is refreshing. Maybe you weren't thinking about lemon and getting something with lemon when you walked into the ice cream shop, but you're like, oh, well, no, they're known for their sweets. So, I could take lemon, and then they don't have the lemon meringue. And then they offered the fudge. It's too dense for fudge. Then, so it's going from pie to fudge to now something hot and sweet, like an apple fritter, but still hot, not cold. And then you go from the apple fritter to the pizza, which is also piping hot. But now from cold to sweet, you're going from cold to sweet to something hot and savory. It's not the same thing. Now, pizza's food like ice cream's a food. Pizza's enjoyable like ice cream is enjoyable. But now the function is different. Pizza acts, any sensible person would say that pizza is a meal, and you can't really have ice cream for a meal anyway. Ice cream is a treat. It's a kind of a one-off treat that you get every once in a while. It doesn't act as a lunch. You can have pizza as a lunch. So you see my point? I feel like I said that way faster in my head when I was dreaming up that scenario. but that's where, okay, I can adapt at this variable and this change and this change. But now when you're actually changing the nature of the thing, even though it's a food, even though it serves as a food, an enjoyable food, you're not going to have the same reception, that the person is going to the ice cream shop expecting ice cream. And they would pay for a certain price for ice cream, then have a complimentary gourmet pizza. So working with expectations, the way you can do that is, okay, try to find a similar thing or common ground with a thing. And when you do that, when you work with the audience or work with their expectations, if you do plan on having a twist, it still has to maintain the experience of the art, the essence of the art, the experience of the story. So let's kind of use it as a practical example with Star Wars. Now, I know in the EU, they do different stories with Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade. And there are stories where I see it and I'm thinking, maybe I don't know if I like this event for Luke, but I don't know. Now, here's the thing. Maybe I would love this. I think there's like an alien race that Luke Skywalker encounters in the EU, and I'm not really, kind of looks a little iffy. Maybe it's poorly done. I don't know, but maybe it's well done. I don't know. The one thing I would have, though, is my expectations for this story, this EU story, is that Luke Skywalker remains the same Luke Skywalker that saved his father and helped overthrow the Empire. If he's the same Luke Skywalker, I would give that story involving him and this alien race a chance, if he's the same. If he's a different Luke Skywalker, I wouldn't be at all pleased. I would say that my expectations weren't met. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to work with expectations. If you have a twist involved, it's a twist that doesn't sully the story. It's a twist that doesn't change the characters. It's a twist that doesn't cause something to be a normal experience in a story to something bizarro. If bizarro was not a part of the plan, if bizarro was not a part of your expectations. So anyway, let's go ahead and see what's happening in the chat, and then we'll have some discussion. But hopefully you like that analogy. That was my first time doing something like that. I think Wolf 10 was saying that was out of nowhere because I was singing the Castlevania. Oh man, wow. Samuel Proctor says, I just finished 1984 last night. It's even more terrifying than I expected. It's yeah. So you arrived to, oh, well, I don't want to spoil it, but let me just say the keywords. Don't spoil it, but let me just say room 101. Yeah. Yeah. That's some, I mean, but you know, that's, if you're so concerned with something socio-political, do it like George Orwell did with 1984. And people won't be put off by it, even if it's something they would disagree with. And if their disagreement, you know, sullies the story, then they would close the book and walk away from it. But I don't know. I think if every artist did something socio-political and put that as a messaging in the way of 1984, yeah, that, oh man, we'd have a lot of good art. Scooter Tuna is in the house. The best messages in art are the ones that contain universal messages, something for everyone to apply to, not just one particular group, race, religion, and or political affiliation. I'm sure this is a really simple example to use, but Lord of the Rings, okay? We got to remember that Tolkien was, a Catholic, a devout Catholic. You know, he was a professor, a linguist, but he was also a devout Catholic. He had Catholic values. He had Christian, Judeo-Christian values. And pretty much the entire world enjoys Lord of the Rings. Like, you don't have to be a Christian to enjoy Lord of the Rings. Schooner Tuna also adds, however, do not do messages at the cost of the art. The art must come first. Absolutely. Absolutely. The nice thing too, though, there's a famous passage, a famous verse in the Bible, Matthew 6:33, I believe it is, where, you know, seek first the kingdom of God, and then these things shall be added to you, which means things naturally fall in place when you put the first thing, the right thing as first. The first thing must be first. Like there's like an old phrase among the self-motivational speakers and entrepreneurs, keep the main thing, you know? And it's true. Actually, there's a really good principle behind that where when you put what is most important first, things will just naturally come to fruition. It's really nice. So that's what I want to stress about with the theme. Don't fret. Let's say you want to write a story and you don't have a theme. When you write a story, especially when it's a story you're excited about and you feel like it's a good story, it will actually evolve over time. A theme, I promise you, will evolve over time. I think actually I was writing my space opera story really before the main theme cemented, but it was such a natural thing. It's like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is the theme. It makes sense. This is integral. This is the core of the story. So don't feel pressured to come up with a theme. In fact, you might not, if you really can't think of a theme for your story or art, you know, in general, just work with it, work with your story, you know, write down the things you're excited about, you know, compose the music you're excited about. And then you'll start thinking, oh, okay, it's forming into this. And that's your theme. Professor Geek says, I agree. Theme comes best arising organically from the story. The key is to identify it in one's writing and shape it intentionally as the story plays out. Yeah, and that actually reminds me of the thought I was thinking. If you come up with a theme, if you force a theme, not force theme, guys, but if you force a theme and then try to kind of mash your story to make it fit the theme, it actually could appear contrived. So what I would do is just kind of fall in love with your story, fall in love with your characters, and then a theme, as the prof says, will organically come out. Owen Lister says 1984, well written, but boy, can it be a downer, which is the point as a cautionary tale, but still a downer. Oh yeah, I'm not recommending it for kicks and giggles. I would say you kind of have to have a sober mind to read a book like that. It's very scary, and it's kind of scarier now that we're sort of seeing people behave in the way that the workers under Big Brother behaved. It's like, yeah, let's get angry at these guys, and then like the next week they're told to get angry at another group of people. It's really strange. I really feel like Orwell, if he didn't think things like communications like social media would happen, I think he would have been intuitively aware, like, hey, this is gonna happen at the turn of the century. Evie brings up, ever heard of Meaning Wave? It samples talks from people like Jordan Peterson with lo-fi stuff. That was a common practice among some masters and doctorate students of electronic music at the University of Washington and also Milwaukee. Very, very common to take little snippets of someone's speech, for instance, and kind of change the context of it, which I mean it's cool. I'm not really a fan of broken pieces of speech and inserted in a musical composition, at least not in not in music that I listen to email, to write, because like if I hear a beautiful, well done, well crafted electronic music, and it kind of just takes me to this world, whether it's my science fiction world or daydreaming about something else, and then I hear words that totally take it out of context for me, I tend to actually not be put off, but it's like, oh well, nah, I want this to be this world with this kind of people or something like that. Oh, hi Evie, it's nice to see you. Big Al says, I dislike being preached to by something other than a religious authority and belittling the alternative. It's one of those times, guys, when I can't pronounce a word live. Alternate and belittling the alternate viewpoint and those who hold them. That's one thing that is we have to remember is, respecting people who disagree with us while also sharing our values. I was telling my sister on the phone over the weekend. I was saying, yeah, I'm doing a video on the Siege of Mandalore, and she's like Big Al. She really enjoys things, and she does, she knows some flaws of Siege of Mandalore, but she still likes it. And I would not be surprised if she decided to just flat out refuse not to watch my video, because she still wants to enjoy that. And she told me, I texted her after the phone conversation. I said, I hope I don't take the enjoyment out of you liking the Siege of Mandalore. And she had a great response. She said, I wish I had my phone with me. But she said something along the lines of, oh yeah, don't worry. I don't take people's criticism of things personally. I know that's super, and I said that's super rare these days. So even though she knows I'm critical of the Siege of Mandalore, she knows, first of all, I wouldn't take her enjoyment of it away from her, and also she doesn't let something like my critique of it take her. She doesn't take it personally, you know. So any critique of something she likes, she doesn't take it personally. Which is kind of like Al, you know. He doesn't take things personally, at least not to my knowledge. But yeah, Al, on your being preached to, you know, I think people wouldn't mind being preached to if that was their expectation. So if you go into an amphitheater or you go to some sort of have a university theater, like a black box, like a small theater kind of room, and you're going in knowing that people are going to be forward about something, forward about a topic, and you have that knowledge ahead of time, I don't think people would have a problem with that. I don't think people would have a problem being preached to if they had that expectation. So if you go to a parish or you go to a church, it should be known to you that you're going to have a message be given to you of some kind by some authority. But if you go, you know, read a Marvel comic, you're really reading an entertaining sequence of events that have good morals and principles based on superheroes taking down the bad guys. And so if you don't have superheroes taking down the bad guys, an expectation, an understandable expectation of reading comics, then you're going to be a little miffed, I would say. Yeah, an ice cream metaphor. And that was totally my original idea. I had to think of something, you know, the trajectory of going from, you know, cold and sweet to hot and savory and salty. So that's why I chose ice cream. Yeah, it looks like people. That's right. That's right. Looks like people are already catching the message what that means. And I am classier. See, I didn't go down that route. I did not go down that route. Thank you, Owen. Samuel Proctor says, Jordan Peterson talks about the difference between lasting stories and propaganda. Talks about the difference between lasting stories and propaganda is that propaganda is when the writer knows exactly what he writes before he even starts, whereas the true writer doesn't. I've noticed that in my own experience of writing, really. You know, I guess you could liken it to nonfiction. Of course, it will, you know, evolve and develop over time, but nonfiction more or less focuses on a subject, and then there's a way to write that. And yeah, again, that the writing, the prose, bullet points, whatever the case may be, it might evolve, it might change your style of writing, your tone, your mood of that book on that subject might change. But you kind of have a clear cut. Well, I'm not a nonfiction writer, so I could be wrong about this, but you do have, actually, Prof would probably be a good person to ask. If you were a nonfiction writer, more or less you would have in mind what you do plan to write, at least the core of what the book is about. Whereas with my fiction, my fiction has started with a simple scene, and sometimes like the very first scene, and I write it down, and sometimes it's for a book, and then that scene goes away. That scene no longer matters. It was just to start something. It's just to start something. It was to start the mood. It was to start the adventure. And then it really does evolve in the writing process. I think it was a few weeks ago where I mentioned I had this denouement scene at the end of, now it's going to be my second book. And it just, I had to change it a little bit. I had to modify it a little bit. It was the same location involving the same characters, but the chemistry between two, involving a door, like shutting a door or leaving the door open, you know, something like that, something simple like that. Well, that had to change because the character, you know, leading, up until that final point of that story, of that installment, she's a very different character than what I had originally thought. Not very different, but she acts and speaks differently now that I've kind of put her through a process than even I had pictured, you know, 6 months ago. It's pretty interesting. He lists Frozen as an obvious example of propaganda. I've never seen that book, or book, it's a movie. I don't know. I probably should. I wonder if I should watch that just to see what the hype really was about. Probably nothing. Oh, and listener says pizza. It's blazing hot out there. Why would I want pizza when I want ice cream to cool off? I think I'll just buy some ice cream from the store. Good day to you, sir. Leaves in a huff. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. If you go to an ice cream store and and you have the choice between buying ice cream and paying nothing for pizza, it still doesn't assuage the situation. It's like, no, I'll take my money. Please serve me ice cream. And then, but now, like, pretend it's not a polite cashier or polite store owner. Pretend that they are insulted that you won't take their free pizza because you went to their ice cream store to get ice cream. And then the unthinkable happens. They take out the ice cream, they chuck it out, and they're like, we're not serving ice cream anymore. We're serving only pizza. Take that. That's kind of like what the ideologues are doing. It's like, oh, you thought you wanted this. I'm so insulted that you don't want this instead. Okay, I'll try to find another ice cream shop. Samuel Proctor says, everyone knows what's in room 101. Well, I mean, not if someone's not read the book, right? Well, actually, I'll be honest, guys. I've never seen the film. I've only read the book. Oh, listener says, do you always need a twist to make a good story, or does good execution, even if it is predictable, still make a good story? Oh, good execution. Good execution on both accounts. So good execution with something without a twist, and good execution with the twist. So actually, we were watching, my prof and I, we were on our date last night, and we were watching a couple episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And there's a character that at the end of the episode, it's obvious that he's consumed in fire, and it's heavily implied that he loses his life in front of his kid. And yeah, I sort of like the character. I don't really like the character as much, but I liked him as he was evolving. Yeah, and then one of the main characters, she screams in terror because he's consumed in flame and stuff like that. So it's obvious that he's perished. Now he has some superpowers, so I'm like, it could make sense if he had absorbed the flame or something like that, and had stabilized, even being severely wounded and stuff like that. So it's probable, with his history, with his kind of special powers that he has, it is probable that he could survive this explosion. But even with dialogue further down the episode, it is implied. It's like it's a sense of closure, like, oh, that this person did perish to save his son, and it was good. It was like, it's a sad death, but it's fine. I'm fine. And then at the end of the episode, we see that he is severely maimed, but he is very much alive, and so that's a twist. Like, oh, we saw him consumed in the explosion, and now we see him alive, and he's in really bad shape. But I remember being a little put off by that, because I actually don't like twists when you do have a good death of a character. Now the prof did say that he's actually an actual comic book character, and with that new knowledge, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that now. But if he wasn't, if he was like an irrelevant character to the world of Marvel Comics, I would have been thinking like, he should have had that closure. Yeah, it'd have been a tragedy, but there's nothing wrong with tragedy. I remember, and actually, I think it was Wolfton. Wolfton, did you see the reboot of Voltron? I think Legendary Defender or whatever it was called, but the new one, the new one. And actually, I enjoyed it because of the visuals and the soundtrack. The soundtrack was awesome. But there's this one point where what's the girl's name? Katie, but what does she go by? I think she goes by Pidge. And she's looking for her brother. She's looking for her brother and father. And there's this one really dramatic scene where she is convinced. She's convinced that her brother had been killed, had died, and she's seeing a tombstone of this recorded information that contains her brother's information, and she's just weeping, and the animation and the sound is so moving, and she's weeping, and I'm crying, like I'm feeling for this animated character, and then boom. Oh, wait, no, he's not dead. He just had to leave some information as like some breadcrumbs. And I remember feeling a little jilted. I was like, you made me cry. You made me cry. And then I didn't need to feel bad. It's like, oh, I don't like that kind of writing, to be honest. I don't like being put through an actual visceral emotion, emotional state, to only realize, oh, I didn't have to cry. It's like, I was like, you made me waste my energy. So I would say yes, good execution. I'm not against twists, though, by the way. I mean, I'm sure I have twists and turns in my story. But any twist that I would write would make sense to the story. Like, oh, I was thinking this, but yeah, now that I know this, that makes sense. It's kind of like that. You should use a twist where it's a twist is really a reveal after a knowledge gap. So what a knowledge gap is information you don't have, or it's a supposition you don't have, or maybe it's a supposition you have of something, and then you realize you just needed just a little bit more information to realize, oh, this is the case. This is the case. I see. And it could be really good. It could be really impactful, but that kind of thing has to be written well. I don't like people kind of I've heard people kind of, I wouldn't say dump on, but M. Night Shyamalan with his Sixth Sense twist. That's a good film. I mean, it's scary. I didn't like it. I know it's not horror, but it's kind of horror for me. But the twist is brilliant. I love it. Now, the problem is you can't kind of go back to that film. Maybe you could kind of see it a couple more times to see, oh, this is how he made us think this certain way, and then it's actually this way. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So you can I would say you could watch that movie 2 or 3 times and enjoy it, or watch it with another person who hasn't seen it and enjoy it. But then once that twist is out, it's out. So twists, I don't know, man. You kind of have to you have to be careful with twists if you want longevity with your stories. Yeah. Put what is most important first. Things naturally fall in place. To put it simply, stay on target. Stay on target. I always, when I'm working on something and I have to stay focused, I do say that out loud, so it does. Crime and Punishment. Yeah, welcome, RT. Nice to see you. I should go back to the classics. I mean, I'm dating a scholar. I really do need to go back to the classics. Schooner Tuna says, honestly, I think Fahrenheit 451 best reflects on what's going on. I mean, how long before we're burning books? Don't publishing houses burn books that don't sell? Don't they burn hard copies or manuscripts that don't sell? Which it's kind of a waste. Samuel Proctor says, I'm writing a story right now, and I don't have any theme in mind. I plan on making a theme on my second draft based on recurring actions that were previously unconnected. Yeah, that's what it works. It's a natural evolution of things. Actually, RT, you might not know me too well. I just don't watch movies that much. I'm going through the Marvel films with Professor Geek. You say one of the best theme in movies is the first two Godfathers, and the thing is, guys, don't spoil Godfather. I probably know what happens, but yeah, actually, I forget the details. I haven't seen The Godfather, so I should watch that. Lots of good messages and all-star Superman. Mm-hmm. Now, see, the thing is, well, let's make that distinction: good messages and messaging, because you can. I don't want to say propagate, but you can display a message that is powerful, that is full of that holds your values or different things like that. But it has to be executed. Actually, Owen Lister talked about he talked about good execution. I think that's really important. Yeah, that's right. Being preached to in the expected setting is fine, but not in a grocery store or something. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep. I agree. RT mentions Frozen is a modern way to brainwash little girls that they don't need a masculine hero to save them from their abyss. That's what JPB basically says about Frozen. Now, I'm not against the female protagonist not having a love interest. I mean, I'm for it too. I think it was Treasure Planet where the male protagonist, he didn't have a love interest. He had a love for his mother, but he also had a love, part of his coming of age was to go on this adventure on this, space kind of steampunk ship. And he and then he found kind of a father figure who wasn't really to be trusted, but he was such a great character. I mean, I hadn't seen that. Came out in 2000, right? So about no, I think it was earlier than 2000. Treasure Planet. I'm thinking of that. Whew, that's pretty monumental animation film, piece of animation. And so I'm not totally against protagonist, male or female, not having a love interest, but if you harp on that, if when I first learned about Frozen being about the love between two sisters, I'm like, oh, that's great. That's something different. That's nice. You need to, have a bond or reconciliation with siblings. But if it's harped on, it's like, oh no, it's not like it's not that she doesn't have a love interest. That I'm okay with that. It's the kind of constant beating. Oh, she doesn't need a love interest. She doesn't need a masculine figure in her life. Okay. You don't have to tell me that. Please don't put a price tag. Don't tag everything. Saying, hey, this is our product, but it has this sort of messaging. I was like, no, just show me the product. Let me see it for myself. Oh, thank you. See, last time I read 1984, that was 2013, I think it was. So it had been a long time. Wolfsen confirms it is Pidge. Oh, okay. So you describe it as the fake emotional spike. I get why you're miffed by that. They cut that stuff out later in the series. Yeah, I mean, I need. I'm not afraid of grieving, for a character in a film. I'm not afraid of grieving for a character in a story. But make it work, make it count. Make that death impactful, or how the character is reacting to that death. That's even more. Um, I mean, I don't want to say don't do it at all. I mean, so if you have, because okay, with Pidge and her brother, thinking her brother is dead, um, I could see I could see her crying. That could be a real life scenario, like someone's crying, believing someone has died, and then they realize, oh no, they're not dead. Okay, that can actually be a real life scenario. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of grace, but if you do that too much, I would say no. I let tragedy be tragedy. Oh, I agree, Zootopia. Twists are nothing without a good setup. Um, Now I understand that with Frozen, isn't it a twist villain? That makes no sense. Like, isn't it that one young guy that what's her name, Anna falls in love with or something, and he ends up being a villain, but there's no real reason for him to be a villain. That I cannot stand. There has to be so much setup for the twist to happen. Yeah, that's a really good point, Zootopia. That a subversion of expectations is fine. A twist of expectations is fine, but you have to do the prep work. It has to be. Who put it this way? I thought it was an author. Maybe this sounds familiar to you guys, but have you ever heard of the idea of a twist? It's how did they put it? Let me see if I can think about it. It's not. Oh man, I can't. I'm thinking of two sentences, and I can't think of the first one to set up the second one. But the twist is basically, I should have known that. It's not like, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's not a twist. The twist is, oh, I should have known that. And it's really kind of an enjoyable surprise too. It's like, oh no. Yeah. Samuel Proctor does not like Godfather. It's because of the characters, not so much the writing. Yeah, I mean they have to be likable characters. Craig is in the house. Welcome. Make a whole day of Godfather 1 and 2. They do flow like one big story, but it will be 6.5 hours. But an incredible 6.5 hours. I would say unless I'm sick or something, but even if I'm sick, gone are the days where I like dedicate a day to a film. Oh, okay. Godfather soundtracks are definitely beautiful. You should go back to the classics. Yeah, there are a lot of things I should pick up. It is true. Zootopia asks a question. What compels you to write a story in the first place? For me, it's to write something around a theme. I like someone like O. Henry started with a theme like irony and then wrote stories around that. Yeah. For me, it's just I daydream and I'm thinking this is a cool scene. I should write it down, and then boom, there's my story. So I'll tell you. So I wrote a speculative novel a few years ago, and I got to go back to it. I mean, I really like it, but there are things I will most likely have to change. But this novel, it started with a scene. It's kind of a crime thriller scene. And that scene, I was daydreaming when I was in Milwaukee getting my master's. The first year I got my master's, I lived, was it 3 miles or 2 miles? I think I lived 2.5 miles away from my college campus. And it became a habit that I just walked 2 miles one way and 2 miles, probably close to 3 miles, back and forth in the snow because it was very long winters. And if you've ever walked in Wisconsin weather, in the brutal snow, in the sub-zero, well, sub-zero would actually be a little dangerous. I don't think it was sub-zero, but the wind just like blows in your face. You wear like a ski mask and like you have to cover your forehead, and you just I had this profile pic one time where I wore those parka hats, and I had a ski mask, and my face was covered. It looked like I was up to no good. And but it protects your whole face. And the biting wind, and when you're walking at night in the cold, the freezing cold snow of Wisconsin, you're really left to your imagination. And so I would just daydream, to get through the cold. I would just daydream exciting scenes and adventure and stuff like that. And then I'm like, oh, this is a cool scene. And then during the break, I was thinking, well, actually, I started thinking about the scene. It's like, this isn't going anywhere. Maybe I should just write this down. And so I started writing it down, and I started seeing characters at play. And then the scene has just long gone. It's just completely removed. It has nothing. I think people were like locked in stasis or something like that, something strange, and like someone was up to no good and all that, and people were trying to find these missing people or something like that. Didn't use it, but it was the start of writing these very mysterious characters. And what were they up to? What did they want? What were their motives? And then I started generating a speculative novel with that, and it has a very poignant theme. I won't talk about the theme because it's really pretty much integral to the plot, and if I will get it published, and I would like for you guys to read it someday. And with my space opera, I was a bad college student. I tell you, my space opera was generated from. I was supposed to write my college paper. It was a very interesting college paper about the difference between Verdi's two Shakespearean operas, Macbeth and Othello. And it's a 40-year gap between Macbeth and Othello. And he had changed over the course of his life. There were political changes in Italy at the time. Oh, I'm sorry, Verdi. Yeah, I think I said his name. There were political changes. There were political upheavals. He had lost, I think, 2 wives in the process. His, the turn of harmonic writing and operatic writing was changing in the span of 40 years. I think Macbeth was written in 1840. And then I think Othello was written in 1880. I think that was the year. And it was a very interesting paper. I didn't write, I was a bad writer. But instead of listening to these operas and writing a paper about these 2 operas and the differences between these 2 operas, I was listening to really hardcore, like uplifting trance, and I was daydreaming about concept art, like in space and spaceships and planets and stuff like that. And then I just started like I would kind of push the keyboard away and just kind of like start daydreaming on the desk, like I have this great action scene in my head. What I need is a television show producer, and I would consult with them, and this would be a fantastic television show. And I was like, this isn't going to be a television show. I might as well just write this story. And that was the start of my space opera. I'm still not done. I still have probably maybe 2/5 of the way done, and that's still a rough draft. So anyway, so that's I dream up of scenes. I dreamt of one time and I'll say one more before I continued on with chat. But I have this idea of a book involving 2 characters. And one character is, unfortunately, I have decided probably to use him as an elemental villain. And the girl I'm thinking of her maybe being an aspirational hero. I'm not sure. She'll be a hero of some kind. And they do start out as friends to survive, but then he becomes, he doesn't start good and then become elemental. Of course, that's not the way the archetype works. He he survives. Like he's living just to live, but he still is he is quite evil. Now, why? But he has this really creepy look about him. He's going to be amazing. He's going to be a very interesting character when I start writing him. But I saw a name. I was a receptionist, and I was taking solicitor cards. Like, oh, here's my card, and talk to the production manager, and you know, ask him if he wants to call me to buy my supplies. And I look at these names like, oh, that's a cool name. That's a cool name. And then this one guy, I look at his card. I was like, whoa, I was looking at his last name. It was a really creepy name. I mean, he was a nice guy. He wasn't creepy, but it was a creepy looking name. It's like, I think I'm gonna take that name and I'm gonna make a villain out of it. So a lot of different things just, come out of my imagination, so. I've heard people write stories based on dreams they have. That's pretty interesting. Actually, my speculative novel, I thought of writing it after a dream I had. I was like, oh, I'll put that in the scene. I'm not using it anymore, but that's kind of the idea. Wolf 10 is confirming what I mean by cut it out. They commit to some major deaths here and there. That's good. I think I read that correctly, right? I hope so. Oh, unfortunately, they were side characters. Oh. Just think about how bad the Vader twist in Empire could have been if Obi-Wan didn't tell Luke that Vader killed Anakin the movie before. That would be less drama. You're right. Oh, you know what though? That also raises a good point. It's such a good twist, but it's still a good movie, and you can revisit it again and again. I always knew Vader was Luke Skywalker's father. I never had the pleasure of knowing that as a surprise. But did that take away my love for that story? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you're right. Right. There needed to be set up. There need to be set up. All right. Did I catch up with chat, or did you guys? Am I frozen? No. Let me go back a little bit and see if I'm missing anything. I guess no one. I'm not yawning. I'm not yawning. Okay. Say something, guys, because I could end the stream now. I feel like I got the message across. The message on messaging. And actually, as I go through comments, maybe I can start singing. Is it Sting or The Police that has the song "Message in a Bottle"? A year has passed since I wrote my note. I should have known this from the start. I don't know that song, actually. It's been probably 10 or 15 years since I heard that song. All right, so I think that's everything. Oh, hey, I could talk about something else regarding messaging. I didn't have any notes really besides this little page here. Let's talk about be comfortable if you have values and you want to share those values in the form of art. So for instance, I'm Christian, so I have Judeo-Christian values that most likely in some form or another will take precedence in terms of story. But even in music, okay, this is another way of understanding the person's expectations and honoring their expectations. I have in mind years down the road, to compose instrumental electronic music with a huge amount of scope instruments and just beautiful instruments with a lot of just the largeness of the stereophonic space, I do have in mind to produce epic sounding electronic music. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still composing electronic music. I'm not at that level I want to be. But when I get to that level, and maybe even before, I do have in mind to just throw an album together that is concretely biblical or Christian. There are ideas about like the sojourner, Abraham, and not being a man taken out of his land, the children of Israel, being taken out of Egypt, the ministry of Jesus and not being welcome in Nazareth, and the coming out of Egypt, to be saved from Herod's genocide plan to kill all boys under 2. The idea of being strangers in a strange land. I don't mean to take that title, but the sojourner, a Christian who, in my belief, we are an integral part of this world, but we're also not a part of this world. We are sojourners until we meet our King. I like that idea of sojourner, and I would love to be be able to musically depict that in electronic music. There are beautiful things in the Bible about like a parable of fig trees or terebinth trees, myrtle trees, something that's tree-based, something that has root and longevity, something like the olive tree. There are beautiful pictures in the Bible with very symbolic meaning that I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of nice to musically depict. Now, if I ever construct such an album and compose such an album, I will be programmatic about it. I will say this is what this music means. It's going to be instrumental. There might not be text. There might be speaking. I might speak into it or something, speak a verse or something. But the person seeing the album, yeah, they can enjoy the music by itself as an instrumental piece of music. But I also want to put the program. Hey, this is about this. This is about a biblical image or a biblical symbol or a biblical theme, even for people who don't share my faith. The idea of programmatic music has been held for centuries, where you go into an opera and you understand the story, or you go under, opera like Verdi's Nabucco on the Italian uprising and this huge upheaval going on in Italy in the 1800s. He wrote an opera surrounding that social event, and it's a very famous opera, and it's still performed, and it's still beloved. But people go in, the people of that time went in with this expectation, oh, the story about these characters will involve the current political climactic state, and they're fine because they have that expectation. So you're not gonna, what would really be a subversion of expectations is to go to see a programmatic piece about something biblical or God-oriented, and then have some people say they slam you with an anti-God message. That is a gross version of or gross subversion of expectations. But if listeners or moviegoers or anywhere in between, readers, if they go in saying, oh, the program of this music is about this. Okay, well, let's check it out. Oh, the idea of this film or this novel is about this. Okay, they'll go check it out, and then they'll decide for themselves if they like it, if they don't. Maybe their expectations will be heightened or brought low. Maybe the expectations will be malleable and changeable. I'm like, oh, I was expecting this, but I'm not disappointed. All those good things. So, messages or program, programmatic music as an example with me as a composer, programmatic music is a musical depiction of a certain thing. It could be a literary thing. It could be a theme. It could be a political message. It could be a religious message. It could be any of that. And people, that's been done for centuries. That has been done for centuries. And it's okay. It is okay. Now, on how to do bad Christian messaging, might be a separate video. I don't know. I mean, I might have to step away to use the restroom. And if I do, I will try to put up my album, and so you can hear my album in the background. It just depends on how much chat I get to, and also talking about the final example of how not to do messaging. How to do messaging poorly. And I'm going to give you an example. I don't have notes, but I think I can. I think I have enough information about this to talk about it. A really good example of not doing Christian messaging. How to. I would say a good Christian example to use. What am I trying to say? The things not to do. In terms of Christian messaging. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how famous it is now, but there was a real famous book series. It's still mentioned. It's kind of mocked at, and it should be mocked, or scoffed at, I meant to say, and it should be scoffed at. It should be mocked. And that is the Left Behind series. I read all 12 books, guys. So Left Behind series, if you guys don't know, it's written by a theologian and also a Christian. I think he was a nonfiction writer. What's his name? Was it Lee Strobel? I think I can't remember. Jerry Jenkins and Tim LaHaye. Jenkins and Tim LaHaye. And so you got a theologian, and then you've got a Christian. I think. Wait, no. Tim LaHaye's the theologian, I think, and then Jerry Jenkins is the fiction writer. I think that's what it was. So they decided to do a 12-part series, a 12-book series. And it's probably symbolic because of the 12 tribes of Israel. And, 12 is a very symbolic number, or it could be a literal number too, in the Bible. But it's 12 books, which is a really long series anyway, of the end times, of the world after the rapture and the kind of the tribulation times, at least. Now, this is not a religious channel. We're not going to go into any debate about the end times and stuff like that. I have my own opinions, but anyway, that's kind of the setting of this piece of fiction. Now, it's coming back to me. I read all 12 books. I think I was right. I think I was 19 or 20. And it's supposed to be a Christian story. It's supposed to be a Christian body of work, meaning you're fictitiously depicting a Christian event, a Christian setting with Christians or people who come to know Jesus Christ. But it's done in the most haphazardly way. It's done in a very careless, very forgetful way, even though I remember a lot of stuff. So the one thing is the one thing they don't do well, these two authors, unfortunately, and I think at least one has long passed. But so I'm trying to say this as respectfully as possible, is they try to preach. They really do try to preach. First of all, the audience should be predominantly Christian for these stories. But they do preach all these sorts of things without having meaningful events, meaningful lessons, and meaningful characters. The characters who are supposed to be Christian, many act abhorrently. Many act and say things in ways that don't make sense, that are not natural. And people say, well, no, they're struggling with sin, not in a believable way. One main Christian character got on my nerves so much, and she at the very end behaved psychotically, like deep level of psychosis, really deciding things for her baby that were very, very disturbing. Like I know it's sin, but it's like, oh, let's get over it. And let's overcome this. I'm like, no, she needs treatment. Okay. The villain who's, if I were to write the end times, like a fictitious setting of the end times, I wouldn't make the Antichrist the main villain. But the Antichrist was the main villain, obviously. Hey guys, um, I forgot to say that I have I've been having bad connection problems today. I should have fronted my stream with that, but I'm back. I guess I talked about the Antichrist and that was too much for the internet. But so the villain, who's supposed to be the spokesperson for the number one enemy of the world, um, he was an absolute buffoon, and he was not powerful, and he was not convincing, and it was just wrong. It was just wrong. The false prophet was also, he was like a buffoon, like to the nth degree. So the bad guys were terrible. The good guys, the Christian people, they were so, I mean, actually, I mean, a lot of those Christians, besides the main character who was Christian, who was the first to turn after everyone disappeared, he was the only relatable character, and he was the only likable character, to be honest, guys. And like when everyone else died, well, we're gonna see Jesus in heaven anyway, so it's fine. But like, I didn't grieve. Like, finally, you died. Where was I going with that? Just one character I liked. Actually, two characters I liked, but the other character he went at the end of the, actually probably the beginning of the second book, and then you just had insufferable characters after that, and there was too many characters. Also, 12 books, too many characters, and they did not act heroically. Like they I mean, even the likable guy, now that I think about some of the things he was thinking of doing, it's like, no, it's not heroic at all. Not heroic at all. So the Left Behind series is a very good example of how not to do Christian messaging. You don't make your Christian characters abhorrent. If you're talking about sin, you got to do it in a convincing way. The spiritual antagonist of all time should be way more convincing, way more powerful, way more of a threat. He's not a threat at all. And his actions don't make sense either. Actually, if you want to have a good time, go to Goodreads and then like type in Left Behind series and just see all the reviews. There are these like master's theses of just like how poorly done the body of work. But I mean this in jest. The whole idea is, if you want to do a Christian piece of fiction, you've got to do it convincing. You have to do it in a very good, very believable way. As Owen Lister says, it is all about execution. So that's my rant. If you want specifics, I'll try to dig up some specifics of that series in my from my memory. Wolfton says, favorite message from Soups is his World of Cardboard speech from Justice League Unlimited. I'm sure before I perish, hopefully I live a good long life, I will know all the iconic Superman. All the iconic Superman stories. Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Yes, it was. Ow, ooh, I think I just scratched a bug bite. Ooh, that hurt. Ooh. Yes. But yes, God was no. I mean, well, I'm sure he's enjoying my stream too. Yeah, I try to put God first in everything, and I just don't think I'm not saying Jerry Jenkins and Tim LaHaye are at a spiritual in spiritual depravity for having composed those books, having written those books. But I think they're. I don't know anything about their spiritual walk, but I would assume they would at least. I'm sure they are with the Lord if they are not with us now. It's just it's not a good set of books. I really want the Catholic Bible Geek did a video on Christian artists and Christian art, and there's a distinction. But I think Christian artists should consider doing Christian art, but if they do it, they have to do it well. Wolf10 says, I've been sketching like crazy today and yesterday. I'm also proud to have gotten the Wolf Squad drawn and colored. So are they going to be like avatars for your stream? That'd be kind of cool. So the chat, as Melissa, was pointing out, yes, my Wi-Fi has been very spotty. I was teaching 2 lessons online today, and my internet completely dropped on both of them. Melissa says, "Read Kingdom Come, beautiful art made by Alex Ross as a Tenchi reference." I think I got that right. If only you knew someone who collects Superman stories and could share them with you. And who could that be? Speaking of which, I haven't seen my prof in the chat for a long time. I'm sure he's listening in the background. All right. So I think that's it for me. And I do have a couple things to do. I would like to write, but I also would like to record some of my video I want to post this Saturday. So do be on the lookout. Do be on the lookout for some critique on the Siege of Mandalore. I think I'm going to have, I don't know, I definitely will have a concrete fixed video of the writing problems of the Siege of Mandalore, all 4 parts. I'm still here. Aw, that's so sweet. Yeah, I wonder if I just put him to sleep with just the sound of my voice and my eyes, the shape of my eyes. But what was I going to say? So it's going to be a fixed video commentary of the writing flaws, the terribly flawed writing of the Siege of Mandalore. And then I'm probably going to do a supplemental video of some nitpicks. I have a few nitpicks that aren't as big a deal as the writing in that arc, but it's still worth noting. It's worth noting for storytelling, what not to do in storytelling. So I think that's really, really important. And then whether in the stream, maybe it'll be a stream. I don't know, maybe a stream or another fixed video. I haven't decided. I would like to talk about what not to do, how the Siege of Mandalore can teach us how not to write. So it really has taught me a lot about how not to write. So that will be on the dock for at least the next couple of weeks. And then I'll try to throw in a soundtrack, Super Nintendo soundtrack, part 4. I haven't done that at all this month, and I need to do at least one this month. And I hope to be a little bit more frequent as we go on, as I'm getting used to doing these. I was trying to do it twice a month, and I realized, oh my goodness, it's almost mid-April and I haven't done one. So we'll see. RT says, it is interesting to see how Christians glorify God by art and Jews do not do such a thing when it comes to art like paintings and sculptures. I don't know. I thought they did. I don't know. But I'm not knowledgeable of Judeo or Jewish art. But I don't know. I'd have to check that. I can't imagine that's true. But I would have to check. Which goes to the idea of messaging, how religions deliver their messages to others. Oh, when it comes to art, like paintings and sculptures. Okay, yeah, I think I get it. Yeah, people who go into an art museum or go to a concert with the expectation of what to see at an exhibition or as in a symphony concert, they have expectations, and definitely we have to honor that. So You can subvert expectations. You can have a twist, but there has to be a setup. Can't be this lazy Last Jedi writing like, oh, it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to show you guys some gotcha moments with no setup, no build. And I think if artists were honest and they really honored the expectations of their audience, I think by and large people would really really be fine overall with messaging in art. So yeah, let's go ahead and plug away some content for the week. Of course, we've got WCR Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got Soundtracks with Birdman with Daniel Herron and Aged Boomer on Wednesdays at 8:30. I'm actually starting to teach composition Wednesday nights now, so I'll probably be a little late to those streams, guys, because I still have to record for my Thursday video. So Soundtracks with Birdman. And then we also have Green Line Girl with her streams, her Final Fantasy VII Remake, probably. Be on the lookout for that, I think 9 o'clock or so. And then, of course, we've got Catholic Bible Geek with his book study, The Last Battle, at 9 p.m. tomorrow, which will be great. It's good. It's been a good run. It's been a good run. Oh, sweet. Okay. Tomorrow at 8 p.m., Inspiration of Heroes with Birdman. I think I'll make it. I think I'll be around. I hope. Oh, I don't know. But at least I'll catch it on the replay. And then, so that will be on the Professor Geek channel, I know. And then the Catholic Bible Geek channel, we're still on for the book study, right? With Big Al Presents and a certain character, a certain guest. And then also, of course, Star Wars book study on Thursday nights at 9 on the Profs channel. And then, of course, be on the lookout for whatever Fanman has going on with his Second Cup Cafe and his maybe something going on Friday night. I don't know. And of course, Knitters Network and also Big Al Presents, they have their Saturday night rewatches, so be on the lookout for those. And of course, Geeky Geezers with Agent Boomer and Troy Pacelli with their rants on what's going on in the geek world. And of course, if you want to know any of this information, of course, you can check out the Professor Geek Facebook group page. So anyway, I think that's it for me. I think sound experimentation, of course, Thursday, and then some video Saturday. So I think I'll stop there. I have got some work to do. So thanks always for watching and listening. Always be on the lookout for some sound experimentation every Thursday, some live commentary every Monday nights, and some commentary Saturdays. And until I see you next, keep producing the art you love, and I will catch you up there. Thanks again.